So friends, today we'll be starting a new topic. How many topics we have covered so far? In the introduction, one chapter, I think introduction, we have covered broadly most of the aspects of GST. At a very preliminary level, at a very basic level, we have covered all these things in the introduction chapter. Then friends, we covered GST accounting part. That was our second chapter. Then what else we have covered? Uh, the concept of supply, I think we have covered. Is it not? Concept of supply, that is an important aspect. That also we have covered. Today we'll be learning about the charges of GST. That is also one more important aspect. We'll be learning GST charges. What are the sections? The relevant section is section 9 of CGST Act. Basically, that is what we are going to learn. After that, we may learn this place of supply and time of supply. Those two concepts will be learning. Then we'll move to some procedural aspects, like how registration can be done, how GST payments can be done. All these things will be learning. Return filing can be done. Will be learning. So today we'll be focusing on this GST charges of section 9 of the CGST Act 2017. I am going to share the screen right now. As you can see on your screen, the topic is charge of GST. Right. But before understanding section 9 of CGST Act, we need to understand few basic things. We can call it pre-reading. So before understanding the section, some concepts needs to be understood. Some definitions needs to be understood. Some of the definitions we might have already learned. We'll recapitulate those things. And there might be some new definitions. We have to understand. We have to appreciate those new terms, new definitions. After that only it will be easier for us to learn section 9. Okay. Okay, friends. Our expected learning outcome is that we should be able to understand how GST is levied, how GST's various kinds of GSTs are collected, extent of their applicability, and we'll be also learning about the composition levy. Composition levy broadly we have discussed. In detail we will be learning. In which situations of concessional tax can be paid, that also we'll be learning. So this is expected. We are expecting to cover all these things in this chapter. So before that, coming to our fundamental understanding, we have already discussed this basis for tax. We know the power to levy tax is with government, and this power is given under Constitution of India. So power to levy tax is drawn from the Constitution of India. Constitution of India gives power to the government to levy various kinds of tax. Right, when GST is introduced, one Constitution Amendment Act was passed, so that power to levy GST can be there. Right, you might have heard one Constitution Amendment Act was passed. The very basis for charge of GST, charge of tax, is taxable event. That means there should be a taxable event, and only when the taxable event is happening, tax can be levied. So what is taxable event? When we are learning previous chapter, we have discussed this. It is the occurrence of the event which triggers levy of tax. Meaning something needs to be occurred so that tax can be triggered. If that thing is happening, tax can be levied. Can you tell me, in the context of GST, what is that happening event? What is that taxable event? On the happening of which tax can be triggered? Who can tell me? Can any of you can tell me? What is that happening event? So that tax can be triggered. Yeah, please speak it out. Aditi?
Sir, any taxable supply
I am unable to
made by
hear
a
the.
taxable person.
What is that taxable event? Can you speak in few words or in one word? This is the taxable event. Okay, let me tell you. You have learned it, not that it is something new. Under GST regime, the taxable event is supply. Is it not? If supply happens, then tax will be automatically triggered. Tax will be levied. Are you agreeing to this? That's how you will learn the supply chapter before this. Okay. So the charging event is what? Please speak out. What is the charging event?
The supply.
Supply. So basic thing is that supply zone. Now, we also know in case of intrastate supplies, supply is the charging event. In case of all intrastate supplies, which kind of GST are to be levied? Please speak. All intrastate supplies, CGST and SGST plus UTGST. We know this concept. Is it not? All intrastate supplies, CGST plus SGST or CGST plus UTGST. And all intrastate supplies, what GST will be levied? Intrastate.
The IGST.
IGST. Okay. Right. And the provision relating the levy and collection of the CGST and IGST are contained in two acts. So you have to read the two acts. One act which is extremely important for us. First we'll be covering this thing. That is section 9 of CGST Act 2017. That will be talking about levy and collection of CGST. Then we will move to section 5 of the IGST Act 2017. So that means broadly this chapter will be focusing on two sections, section 9 of CGST and section 5 of IGST Act. Is it clear? Yes or no? Is it clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Now, first of all, in order to understand those two sections, section 9 and section 5, we have to understand some terms. So therefore, we need to refer to some definitions. Right? First concept is that we have to understand. We know it, but still in detail we'll be understanding what is this intrastate supply and what is this interstate supply. Right. So coming to first part, intrastate supply. Here you have to technically understand two things. First thing is that location of the supplier and place of supply. Place of supply, this concept we will be learning subsequently. But right now at this stage you have to understand. If the location of the supplier, that is supplier where it is located, and the place of supply are in the same state or same union territory, we'll be calling that supply as intrastate supply. Right. So what are the two things? Supplier's location and place of supply. These are the two things we need to understand. Okay, what is supplier's location? What is place of supply? And what is interstate supply? Again, we have to catch those 2 points. Place of location of the supplier and the place of supply. That is location of supplier and place of supply. Again, we have to see. In case of interstate supply, what happened? These two locations, these two places, that is location of the supplier, place of supply, can be in two different states, can be in two different union territories, or can be in a state or in a union territory. Right? If that is so, those kind of supply will be referred to as interstate supply. Right? I know all of you know what is interstate supply and what is interstate supply. Right? Inter and intra differences you know. But here I expect you to focus on those two words, that is this location of supply and place of supply. These two things are important. Okay, is it clear to you? Now let me proceed. Next term, what we learn, what we are expecting to learn. Few relevant definitions also important. Then only we will be able to understand section 9. Before understanding section 9, we have to familiarize ourselves with these terms. First term is, what is central tax? So many places in the law, the term used is central tax. Central tax means the central goods and services tax. That means CGST. Okay, levied under section 9. That is the meaning of central tax. And what is integrated tax? Integrated tax means the integrated goods and services tax levied under the Integrated Goods and Services Tax Act. Right? Central tax is levied under CGST Act and IGST is levied under IGST Act. Sorry, IGST is levied under IGST Act, but it is defined in this particular section. It is defined under section 2 of 58 of CGST Act. All these definitions we are learning is as per CGST Act. Okay, these are the definitions which are given under CGST Act. Okay, so definition of IGST is there under CGST. What is state tax? Means this is the tax collected under state goods and services tax. So this definition of state tax is also given under CGST Act. All these definitions are given where? In which act you can find all these definitions? Or we are discussing with reference to which act? Right now we are discussing with reference to. Can you please reply? Could you reply?
The CGST Act.
Yes. So point here is that now all these definitions we will be learning from CGST Act point of view. And the section 9 also we are learning section 9, that is section 9 of CGST Act we are learning. Okay. Right. Earlier we had already discussed the meaning of goods, but again we'll quickly recapitulate. This means movable property other than money and securities, but it includes auctionable claims, growing crops, grass, etc. So this concept I had already explained you. What is the meaning of goods? What is the meaning of services? We have also learned earlier. Means anything other than goods, money and securities, but includes activity relating to use of money or its conversion by cash or by any other mode from one form currency or denomination to another form currency or denomination for which a separate consideration is charged. So there might be some services related to this kind of transaction, that is exchange of money, etc. So those are the services. Okay, these definitions also we have learned earlier, services. Now, one important definition here is that what is the meaning of exempt supply? Exempt supply means any goods and services which attracts nil rate of tax or which may be wholly exempt from tax under section 11 of CGST Act or section 6 of IGST Act and includes non-taxable supplies. This definition also you have learned earlier. So nil rated goods, nil rated supplies which are wholly exempt, and the non-taxable supplies. All these things are covered under exempt supply. So in the act, whenever you are coming across this word exempt supplies, then you have to say this that includes nil rated supplies which are wholly exempt, and non-taxable supplies. Now this is a new definition. Aggregate turnover we have not learned earlier, but this is what we have to learn. Okay. I request Drishti, please read this definition.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Aggregate turnover means the aggregate value of all taxable supplies. It's in bracket excluding the value of inward supplies on which tax is payable by a person on reverse charge basis, exempt supplies, exports of goods or services or both, and interstate supplies of persons having the same permanent account be computed on all India basis, but excludes central tax, state tax, union territory tax, integrated tax, and cess, according to section 2, subsection 6 of CGST Act.
CGST Act. Okay, thank you. Now you see, this definition is extremely important for us. Many times we'll come across this particular phrase, what is aggregate turnover. So we need to understand what exactly the aggregate turnover. Aggregate value of all taxable supplies. Shortly, I am going to explain all taxable supply. Right now, understand the supply on which tax is leviable. But it excludes value of inward supplies on which tax is payable by a person under RCM. RCM concept we have discussed earlier, is it not? Can you tell me what is the concept of RCM? Mrudula, can you tell me RCM concept broadly? What is RCM?
So can you repeat the question?
Just narrate us what is RCM. RCM, reverse charge mechanism. What is that concept? Anybody else who can just give us a brief idea? What is RCM?
Sir, in case of RCM, the customer needs to deposit the tax with the government, like the one who is availing the service or getting the supply of goods.
Okay. Okay. Instead of customer, you can say the recipient. Okay. Right. Right. That is the meaning of RCM. In certain cases, the recipient or the receiver of supplies, he has to discharge the GST liability. That is called as RCM. When we talk about the aggregate value, it includes all taxable supplies. But if some supply has received on which tax has been paid on RCM basis, or that comes under RCM RCM applicability, okay, that has to be excluded. So excluding the value of inward supplies on which tax is payable by a person on RCM. Okay. So if there is some inward supply on which tax is payable by a person has to pay tax, but that is an inward supply. That is not outward supply. Inward supply means, roughly I had told you earlier, inward supply means purchase. Outward supply means supply or sales or related service supply. Okay. So even if you are paying RCM, you are paying GST on RCM basis, that will not be included in aggregate turnover. You are paying under RCM. Okay, you are not paying a regular tax. Why you are paying? Because you have to pay. Even if you are receiving the supply, you have to pay on it. Understood? So includes all taxable supplies, but excludes the value of inward supplies on which tax is paid by the person on reverse charge basis. It also includes exempt supplies. What is exempt supply? Just now we have covered related supplies, etc. So exempted supplies will be also included. Export of goods and services, they will be also included. And interstate supplies if the person having same permanent income. Maybe it is having a branch in different state. And interstate supplies are made. Same permanent account. Okay, same PAN. If the PAN is same, branch transfers, interstate branch transfers will also be included. So interstate supplies if the person having same permanent account shall be computed in all India basis. Okay, this is the meaning of aggregate supply. But it excludes, this is the meaning of aggregate turnover, but it excludes all taxes. That means all GSTs. That means if CGST is included, SGST is included, UTGST is included, IGST is included, or cess is included, all these things has to be excluded. Suppose all things taken together, the supply is 1,18,000. That means only 1 lakh will be taken. GST elements will not be taken. Okay, assuming 18% is the GST. Value of aggregate turnover, let us say 1,18,000. So value of turnover might be 1,18,000, but we have to exclude the GST component. We have to take aggregate turnover as 1 lakh. Can you compute aggregate turnover after understanding these definitions? Can you compute? Yes or no? Please reply.
So yes, we can try.
You can compute. So remember this thing. Again, I repeat, aggregate value of all taxable supplies. But if there is some inward supplies on which GST has been paid under RCM, that will not be added here. That is quite clear. Basically, that is an inward supply. Okay. Just because you have paid GST, that doesn't mean that it will become an outward supply. It's an inward supply, right? And on which GST is paid under RCM, but that will not be included in aggregate turnover. Exempt supplies will be included. Exports will be included. Interstate supplies will be included provided it is made to same permanent account. Okay. But when computing aggregate turnover, CGST, SGST, ITGST, UTGST, and cess are to be excluded. This is the meaning of aggregate turnover. Hope it is clear. Now, the meaning of business. Next concept is that we need to know the meaning of business. But this definition you have already covered earlier. It includes trade, commerce, manufacture, profession, vocation, adventure, wager, etc. All these things. Right? All these things. This is the broad definition of business. This definition is also relevant to understand section 9, understand the charging sections. We need to have idea about what is business. So I will not repeat it. What is the meaning of consideration? Consideration aspect we have also discussed. We are discussing the supply concept. But still, it is important for us. Let me quickly explain you again what is this consideration. In relation to supply of goods and services, it includes payments made or to be made for certain supplies. If some payments has to be made or payments is already made, that amount will be considered as consideration. But it does not include any subsidy given by central government or state government. So government subsidies has to be excluded from consideration. Right? So any amount paid or to be paid excluding subsidy is a part of consideration. It also includes the monetary value of any act. Some act or some forbearance is there. Okay, something has been done or something has not been done in consideration of some supply. That will also be regarded as a consideration. But however, deposit amount shall not be regarded as consideration unless the supplier applies such deposit as consideration. So this concept also you have discussed. Consideration amount excludes deposits. Right? Till that time when a supplier applies it as consideration. When supplier applies it, supplier recognizes this deposit as a consideration, then only it will be treated as consideration. This is the meaning of consideration. Meaning of person also you have discussed earlier. I will not discuss in detail. All that you have to remember. The definition of the person that you have learned under income tax law is different. And the definition of the person that we are learning under GST law is different. You can quickly go through it. That this concept will also be useful to us for understanding the section. Right? So this I had shown you how many category of persons are there, this concept. Right. Now here is a new definition we have to familiarize ourselves, that is recipient. Recipient of supply of goods and services both means, now carefully you have to read it. In a subject like law, we have to read the provisions first of all. Okay. Then we'll be able to understand it. First of all, I request any one of you, may I request Anurag.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Please read this particular definition. Recipient of the supply of goods and services both means A.
Where a consideration is payable for the supply of goods or services or both, the person who is liable to pay that consideration.
Wait a minute.
Where no consideration is payable.
Wait. Please wait. First we'll understand this thing. One by one we'll be covering. Where consideration is payable for supply of goods or services or both, the person who is liable to pay. Right? Let us say you purchased a goods from a shopping mall, or you ordered a goods maybe through online shopping. Right? So tell me, in this kind of supply, whether consideration is payable, are you liable to pay something? Let us say you ordered something from Amazon. Right? Tell me whether consideration is payable by you or not. Reply.
Yes, sir.
Yes, consideration is payable. So where consideration is payable, the person who is liable to pay. Who is liable to pay? You are liable to pay or somebody else is liable to pay?
Sir, we are liable to pay.
Yes. So in that case, you are the recipient. Okay, term recipient is important for us to understand the charging section. So where consideration is payable, the person who is liable to pay that consideration, he'll be treated as recipient. Okay, point A is over. Now point B. Now read it.
So where no consideration is payable for the supply of goods, the person to whom the goods are delivered or made available, or to whom the possession or the use of the goods is given or made available.
Okay. Now second example, you see, where no consideration is payable. Consideration is not payable. First of all, if consideration is payable, very easily we can decide who is the recipient. But where consideration is not payable. For example, let us say some medicine representative is coming and giving some sample medicine to a doctor. Whether consideration is payable in this case, whether the doctor will pay him some money. Sample medicine given by MR to a doctor. Consideration is payable or not? What do you say? Payable or not? Keep replying. In this case, whether consideration is payable or not. Drishti,
Yes, sir.
consideration is payable.
So regarding,
Whether consideration is payable in this situation. Did you understand the situation? Situation is that one medicine representative is coming and giving a free sample medicine to a doctor. Question is whether consideration is payable in this situation or not.
no, sir. It's not.
Yes,
No, sir.
no. So no consideration is payable. There we have to decide who is the recipient. So that is what the second provision says. That on the second part says where no consideration is payable for supply of goods, the person to whom goods are delivered. We have to say to whom goods are delivered. Let us say it is delivered to the doctor. The doctor is the recipient. Or it is made available. It's not delivered, but it is made available. That means again the doctor can make use of it. Or to whom possession or use of the goods is given. If somebody is given the possession of the goods, or somebody is allowed to use the goods, that person will be treated as recipient. Okay, this is regarding goods. Where no consideration is payable for supply of services. If some service is provided but no consideration is payable, the person to whom service is rendered, they will be treated as recipient. Okay, so you have to clearly understand the recipient definition. Where amount is payable, consideration is payable, no issue. When consideration is not payable, you have to see to whom goods are delivered, to whom goods are made available, to whom possessions has been given, or to whom use of goods are allowed. And in respect of services, to whom services are rendered. They are the people, they are the persons who can be treated as recipient. And here again we have to see the provision also says that recipient also includes the agents of the recipient. If goods might be given to the agent, then also it will be assumed it is given to the recipient. So recipient include an agent of the recipient. Okay. Did you understand the definition of recipient? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let us proceed further. Now, what is reverse charge? We have understood in our preliminary chapter. What is reverse charge? But here we are learning the definition of reverse charge. Definition is provided under section 298 of CGST Act. Means the liability to pay tax by recipient of the supply of goods or services or both instead of supplier of goods or services or both under subsection 9 or subsection 4 of section 9 or under section 3 or subsection 4, subsection 3 or subsection 4 of section 5 of IGST Act. Here the liability of the pay is on the recipient under these sections. Okay, when recipient is liable to pay tax, that will be called as reverse charge. Right? This is the definition of reverse charge. We know this concept. Now we have to see what is taxable supply. In order to understand this aggregate turnover, I was showing you the aggregate turnover. It says aggregate value of all taxable supply. So we need to understand what is this taxable supply. Now, taxable supplies definition is also a new definition for us. We have to see means the supply of goods or services on which is chargeable to tax. So if goods or services are particular goods or services are chargeable to tax, that will be regarded as taxable supply. What is non-taxable supply? Here means a supply of goods or services or both which is not leviable to tax under this act or under IGST Act. Okay, if it is not leviable to tax, it is called as non-taxable. We can say non-taxable supply. Now, definition of supplier is also new to us. Supply, you know, but what is supplier? Here it is explained in relation to goods or services or both. Shall mean means the term supplier shall mean a person supplying the said goods or services or both. Okay, he is the supplier. That means the person who is supplying goods or services or both, but it shall also include an agent acting as such on behalf of such supply. That means the person who is supplying, in addition to that, the agent of that person, he will be also regarded as supplier. Okay. Right? Now, few more issues quickly we'll cover. First of all, extent and commencement of GST law. We already know from the section 1 of CGST Act, when we started, we have understood this, that this CGST law is applicable to whole of India. Whole of India means it includes Jammu and Kashmir. That is about applicability. But when I say whole of India, there is a need to understand the meaning of India. Okay, what is the meaning of India? We have to understand. The meaning of India is defined under section 56. Section 256. If you read, means the territory of India as referred to in Article 1 of the Constitution. So first of all, we have to refer to Article 1 of the Constitution. There, it has been explained what is the meaning of territory of India. Its territorial waters. So territorial waters are also included. Seabed and subsoil underlying such sea waters. So seabed and subsoil underlying such sea waters are also included. Continental shelf, that is also included. Excluding economic zone (EEZ) or any other maritime zone as referred to in territorial waters, continental shelf, exclusive economic zone and other maritime zones Act 1977. And the airspace above territorial waters, above territory and territorial waters. So airspace above territory of India and also above territorial waters, they will be regarded as India. So all these things are included. So what is important here is that this territorial waters, okay, then exclusive economic zone, both the things we need to understand. Okay, as you can see the picture, you can say this is the territory of India, that is the soil, then sea starts. So territorial water extends up to 12 nautical miles from the baseline. So this is the baseline. So from here, 12 nautical miles is the territorial water. So below that, this soil, subsoil, also the airspace of the territory, airspace on the territorial water, all these things are included. And also includes economic zone, exclusive economic zone. Exclusive economic zone means 200 nautical miles from the baseline. From the baseline is here. Here you have to see 200 nautical miles from the baseline. That is the subsoil continental shelf are under that, and the airspace that is also included in India. Beyond that, it is regarded as high sea. High sea means it is no man's land, that is international, you can say international area. Okay, but up to this is explained as India. You might be thinking, what is nautical miles? So, for our reference, you have to understand 1 nautical miles is equal to 1.852 kilometers. Right, from the baseline, you have to measure 12 nautical miles. Then, again from the baseline, you have to measure 200 nautical miles. This is the exclusive economic zone. Is it clear what is India? As per definition. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, what is the state GST laws? State GST law, every state has got a GST law, GST Act. It extends to the state. For example, Odisha Goods and Services Tax Act 1977 extends to whole of state of Odisha. Right. So every state there is a state law. IGST Act, that is Integrated Goods and Services Act 2017. It extends to whole of India, including Jammu and Kashmir. Right. UT GST Acts, they are applicable in union territories. Right. Some union territories do not have state legislation. In those states, the UT-GST, in those union territories, UT-GST legislations are applicable. Those union territories are Andaman and Nicobar, Lakshadweep, Dadra and Nagar Haveli, Daman and Diu, Chandigarh and other territories. These are the union territories where state legislation is not there. So UT-GST Act is applicable to those union territories. Okay. So this is basically, we covered certain preliminary things which are required to understand the various sections. Then we will cover the aspect, what is the meaning of levy and collection of tax. After that only we will be going to section 9 to understand how this levy and collection can be implemented and how that can be dealt with. So we'll stop here for the timing. We'll again catch up after 15 minutes in the next session. Okay, so till that time, bye. See you at the next class. Thank you.